Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Hagoromo give his power to Kid Naruto Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Long ago in a time forgotten by the people of the world, was an era of enduring rage and unending wars. Mankind had been cursed to fight each other in an eternal war. They fought over petty reasons, for performing horrific crimes against one another or for no reason at all other than violence and death. Different factions often tried to better themselves by weakening their enemies so their own military strength could be greater, only for a greater force to overwhelm them later. Humanity had a curse, a distasteful and infectious curse that all beings were infected with. 1. More powerful than any war. The curse of hatred. A potent force that can drive an innocent person to become a beast fueled by rage to hunt down those who wrong them. All the while inflicting more pain, brutality and spreading further hatred among people. Hatred was like a tree and it only continued to grow as more and more people were festered by it. Those who were directly affected by it and those who bared witness to those horrific outbursts of fury, no one was ever safe from it. One may even say it was genetic and had the possibility to be passed down the generations. But, what came after hatred? Most would say healing. Healing from the pain of their lives and the pain they brought on others. Only an imbecile would believe that it would bring about a stop to hatred. What comes after hatred would be either of the following things: emptiness, where a person would lose everything that was ever close to them, their own self. The emptiness it brought forth was like an ever-spreading fire with nothing to quench it with, or even more hatred, where the anger would blind people to the truth and make them accept that the world itself was responsible for what happened to them. Among the humans and their inherited hatred was a tree. A tree of massive height and equally massive power. A tree that was worshipped as a god. This tree had a conscience of its own, but very few knew the full extent of its intellect. This tree watched as the humans around it fought and murdered each other and cheated one another for their own gain while turning a blind eye to others. The tree knew that while humanity had the capacity for good and evil, they overwhelmingly chose the latter option. The tree would often look down upon the humans and be disgusted by what it would see. At times it took pity upon them for their short lives and weakness. The colossal tree didn't know whether it liked being praised as a god or feared like the Shinigami. But it did tolerate the level of respect the humans showed it. Even the tree, with all its foresight, knew that one day wisdom would be lost, hope would diminish, fate will be turned in different directions and justice would fall. It was merely waiting for that to happen and for humanity to be entirely consumed by hatred. Every 1,000 years, the God tree bore a fruit of immeasurable power and destruction, a fruit that held its own power within. The reasons why one could not lay their hands upon this fruit had been lost to ages. Thousands of years ago, a man named Tenji was the leader of the land of ancestors. He desired for peace and tried to avoid direct confrontation with his opponents to avoid wars being waged. He wished for a peaceful alliance and negotiations with them. One day he came across a lady who could be considered a goddess at first glance in terms of her beauty. She wore a white robe with 6 tomos in the front and purple lining near her arms. She had beautiful silky and straight hair, the same color as that of snow. But what mesmerized him were her eyes. They were pupil-less, giving off a silvery glow. He saw her gazing at the night sky with such patience. He had not seen this person before in his land, so he spoke to her. "May I know who you are?" asked Tenji curiously, looking at her. The lady, for her part, didn't reply for a while. A few seconds later she turned to look at him. "I'm Kaguya Otsutsuki." He found her voice to be very melodic. "Where do you come from? What do you desire here?" And again, Kaguya didn't reply for few seconds. She didn't know if she could confide to him what she wanted or where she came from. From what she felt of these vile creatures called human, they were filled with anger and darkness. Yet from him she couldn't feel much of it. "I desire peace. Peace among everyone. A place devoid of wars and hatred." She looked at him and saw the man nod his head. "I come not from another land in this world, but from the stars." Tenji for his part was surprised to hear this. Wanting to know more about her, he began to make small talks with her. After that fateful day, Tenji allowed Kaguya to stay within his palace. He was glad there was another who shared the same ideals as him. They began to meet each other more often and spend more time together each passing day. Soon enough the two became lovers. His devotion to Kaguya's cause for peace made him threaten his own followers with death if they dared threaten peace with the land of that. After Sukazu, the minister of land of that tried to kidnap Kaguya, Tenji was horrified of Kaguya's godlike powers when he witnessed her kill many of his soldiers in self-defense. Eventually, Tenji decided to betray his love to prevent a war from breaking out. However, as the two sides attempted to capture Kaguya, she ate the fruit from the God Tree, aka Shinju, and gained unimaginable powers. With her new powers, she casted the Mugen Tsukuyomi, Infinite Tsukuyomi. As Tenji fell victim to the genjutsu, he asked her what she was, unaware that she was carrying his children. Kaguya Otsutsuki, for her benevolence for ending the wars and stopping the spread of hatred, was named Usagi no Megami, Rabbit Goddess, because of her two horn-like protrusions which resembled rabbit ears. Like the Shinju, Kaguya was also worshipped as a living god on earth. People bowed before her in respect and reverence for her power and divine will that many considered to have no equal. However, Kaguya had not broken the chain of hatred, instead, merely fractured it. She forced more people to submit to her iron will to stop the hatred from spreading. Her power, which was once praised, soon came to be feared, and instead of being called the Usagi no Megami, she came to be known as the Oni demon. At some point, Kaguya gave birth to two sons, Hagoromo and Hamura. Both children were born with the same power as their mother: the ability to use chakra. These two boys gained legendary prowess of their own using their own innate ability. As the years passed by, the Shinju had become enraged that its fruit was consumed by someone. Angered and outraged that its fruit was stolen, the tree's surfacing fiery hatred had appeared before Kaguya's own magnificent eyes before she even knew the consequences of her actions. The tree underwent a metamorphosis of its own, transforming into a gigantic vile creature whose image mirrored its own hatred. A beast that was christened the Jubi, 10 tails, for its 10 massive tails which could split the land in half. The beast rampaged across the land hoping to retrieve the lost chakra and seek vengeance upon Kaguya for her arrogant acts. The entire world felt the might of the Jubi's hatred. The vile chakra of the fruit had corrupted Kaguya's mind. Thus, upon seeing the beast, Shinju called out to her to become one with itself. When Hagoromo and Hamura found out about their mother's inhuman act of putting people under her control and using them as puppets, they wanted to confront her. But Hagoromo knew that he didn't have enough power to go against his mother yet. He soon came across a toad by the name of Gamamaru who could utilize natural energy. Intrigued by the power in Senjutsu chakra, both Hagoromo and Hamura went to Mount Myoboku along with Gamamaru. There Hagoromo learned to utilize natural energy, Senjutsu chakra. When he returned to confront his mother, he was further shocked. Hagoromo was horrified that his mother, who had given birth to him, could become one with the vile creature in front of him. During the confrontation, Hagoromo awakened the Rinnegan, God's eyes, due to the pain of harming his brother, Hamura, who was being controlled by his mother. Hagoromo was fortunate that Gamamaru had given him a tag with the kanji for heal, filled with sage chakra, which he used to heal his brother from the mortal wound Hamura received. Why, mother? Why would you commit such atrocious acts? Don't you care about the people of this land? Asked an enraged Hagoromo. Chakra is everything. It's life and it is soul. It needs to be whole again, you insolent child. You dare betray me, spoke Kaguya with an emotionless face. The two brothers fought in a cataclysmic battle that scarred the very earth. The two sons with all their power had fought to the near end of their will to defeat the beast which was their mother. However, the Jubi was connected to the world, just as the world was connected to the Jubi. It was basically immortal. So, if they couldn't kill the beast, then the creature had to be sealed inside a person's body so to not bring about even more catastrophe. Thus, Hagoromo sealed the chakra and soul of the beast within himself, and the body of his mother sealed off inside the moon, which he created with one of his decisive moves, Six Paths Chibaku Tensai. The husk of the 10 tails was sealed inside the moon as well. So, Hagoromo became the world's first jinchuriki. And like his mother before him, his own power soared to new heights. He, like his mother, became a god. One even more revered than his mother, wielding the greatest weapon in the world, chakra. Hagoromo, who later became a monk, came to be regarded as the Raikudo Sennin, sage of 6 paths, while his brother Hamura went to live off his life on the moon where he could be close to their mother. Hagoromo created a religion, one which people would aspire to and believe in and give them hope. This religion was named Ninshu, later known as ninjutsu. He aspired to bring peace across the lands by teaching people about chakra and its uses in a tranquil manner. So, Hagoromo shared his chakra with different people who were willing to follow him in his quest to bring about a change in this world. He hoped people would connect the chakra with their spiritual energy, yin chakra, allowing others to understand each other. Hagoromo later in his life had 2 sons. The elder one was named Indra Otsutsuki and the younger one was named Ashura Otsutsuki. Hagoromo knew that even with his strong physical chakra, yang chakra, he could not live very long. The reason being the extremely potent and vile chakra flowing through his chakra coils. Thus, he intended to teach his sons and his current followers, who he viewed as companions, to teach all he knew about chakra and Ninshu before he could pass on the mantle to one of his sons. Indra and Ashura had a relatively peaceful childhood growing up. Ashura was extremely close to his big brother Indra, whom he idealized and hoped to become like him someday. Indra, well, you could say he was more secluded out of the 2 young children, but he still cared for Ashura a lot. When the time came, both Indra and Ashura began to learn Ninshu. It was quite clear that Indra was more intellectual and more into his studies and practicing the practical aspects of Ninshu compared to Ashura, who would mostly say, "It's boring. Why must I study this?" One could say Indra was a prodigy in the field of Ninshu while Ashura was the complete opposite. One day, Indra created more practical uses of Ninshu by stating that one can use various elements of the nature by changing the flow of chakra in their body and molding it in a different manner by going through hand seals. Saru, monkey, tatsu, dragon, nay, rat, tori, bird, mi, snake, ushi, ox, inu, dog, uma, horse, tora, tiger, I, boar, hitsuji, ram, yu, hare. People were extremely impressed by this discovery and some even started whispering about Indra being the one who would carry on the way of Ninshu. Although Hagoromo was pleased that his son was making progress in Ninshu and extending its uses, somewhere he had a nagging feeling that Indra will seclude himself more as his prowess increases while Ashura would remain in his shadow. Still, he had high hopes from both his sons that they would do what he wouldn't be able to in his life, that is, bring about a revolutionary change in this world that will make people understand each other even better and create a world filled with love and harmony. It later became clear that Indra acquired his father's yin chakra and visual prowess, spiritual energy, while Ashura acquired his father's yang chakra and strong body and longevity, physical energy. As, in the following years, Indra awakened his Sharingan, Copy Wheel Eye, while saving his brother from a rampaging bear. Ever since Indra awakened the Sharingan, he seemed to have become more cold towards people. He started visualizing that through power, one can conquer anything and always stuck to what is correct and incorrect and abode by his rules. Compared to his brother, Ashura was not too advanced in the usage of Ninshu and he could never keep up with his brother during training sessions. Although, people did like Ashura's more cheerful and easygoing attitude, which in turn made him easier to talk to compared to Indra. One day a friend of Ashura came to him asking for his help. Ashura, my mother seems to be very ill and the cure which I'm looking for is across the forests and getting there through the forests will take time. You practice Ninshu, yes? Could you help me out? The man said pleadingly. Ashura was considered a friendly and helpful person, thus people mostly came to him or Hagoromo when in need of assistance. Yeah, I suppose I could do that. Just wait here and watch me, Ashura said with a smirk. He did certain hand seals and strong gust of wind was blown from the palm of his hands which tore down a pathway to the end of the forest, making a quick way to the end. Later that day, Ashura was reprimanded by Indra on blindly helping someone without considering the matter because the man who Ashura helped just wanted the forests cut down for his own selfish gains. Indra later locked the man in a dungeon and warned Ashura not to go near him. Ashura, being a forgiving person, went to get him out. However, when Ashura got the man out of the cave dungeon was inside the cave, they came across Indra waiting there. "What are you doing, Ashura? Did I not tell you not to go near the imbecile?" Indra asked in a monotone voice, his face showing no emotion whatsoever. "Ni-san, we should give him another chance. Punishing someone for such futile acts is not the way. And he hasn't harmed anyone," said Ashura. "It doesn't matter. What he did was against the rules and he must pay the price for it." It was said in such an uncaring manner that it made Ashura flinch. Ashura jumped in front of the man to protect him. Indra jumped towards Ashura and pushed him towards the tree. Ashura hit the tree before falling to the ground. He wouldn't admit, but his Ni-san hits hard. Indra, quicker than a flash, had his hand inside the man's chest sparkling with Ration chakra, lightning chakra. "Ni-san, why did you do that?" Ashura was astonished that his Ni-san could kill someone just like that. When Indra turned to glare at his brother, Ashura saw the three tomos in his eyes spinning in a threatening way. That moment he saw the hatred in his brother's eyes. This world needs order. It needs change. And it is only through power one can hope to bring about such a revolution. That's all, Indra said darkly before vanishing from the spot. Ashura, for his part, could not comprehend why his brother started acting in an uncaring way ever since he awakened the Sharingan. He often felt intimidated by those eyes but shrugged it off, thinking it was nothing. After a while he made a grave for the man and just stood in front of it in the stillness of the night. When he turned to his right, he saw his two-san father standing beside him. "Indra has changed, Ashura. His eyes are like my mother's. Those eyes give him unimaginable power. He desires order in this world and wants to do it in his way. The way he goes about Ninshu is not how I intended it to be spread," Hagoromo said with a tired sigh. After a few seconds of silence, Ashura walked away from the spot. As years passed by, it became more noticeable why Indra was hailed as a genius. He could accomplish anything with little to no effort and started living a solitary life. He primarily believed other people would merely inhibit his growth and potential. Ashura, on the other hand, could do nothing on his own. But through his determination and will, along with the ideals of relying on others, his friends, did Ashura's talents bloom like a flower in spring. While unlike Indra, who led a solitary life believing that others would only hinder him, Ashura became a capable leader, amassing many loyal followers, most of whom were his childhood friends. He, like his father wished, began to spread Ninshu to the world through the help of his friends. Upon his deathbed, seeing both Indra's and Ashura's accomplishments, did the sage choose between the two of them, the heir of Ninshu, the prodigious son Indra, or the no-good, untalented Ashura. Knowing of his younger son's exploits and the quality of never giving up on the good inside people, gave Hagoromo hope that cooperation and love would bring about true peace. While lust of power and dominance would only bring about a temporary peace. Thus, Ashura was chosen as the heir to Ninshu. Hearing this, Indra walked out of the room angered at his father's choice, while Ashura was shocked. "Father, why me? Ni-san would do a better job compared to me," said Ashura. "While I do believe Indra is ahead of you in certain aspects, but Ninshu should be spread to teach love, compassion, and be used to bring peace. One must be kind and filled with love and have great patience for that. Those are the qualities I see in you, my son." Later that night, when everyone was celebrating, Ashura went to meet his father again. A doubt somewhere in his mind that his father made a wrong choice still lingering in his mind. He came upon the door which led to the hall where his father sat and made slow walk. He soon reached the place and saw his father sitting there with his eyes closed. "Was it the right choice, Otou-san?" Ashura asked in a low whisper. Hagoromo opened his eyes, which seemed to give an eerie purplish glow and had several concentric circles and a small black dot as a pupil. He stared at his younger son for a while and answered, "Ashura, the world has always been in constant fighting and wars and have started on some of the most unthinkable things. Human life is a precious thing which should not be wasted in fighting wars. It is my belief that one day, the world shall know true peace. Love and compassion are essential part of that. Indra is turning more and more like my mother each passing day. Bringing peace to the world via power and dominance is only temporary, and with time people come to fear the power dominating them as they cannot comprehend it. Come here, my son, I shall now pass on to you what is now yours. Ashura approached his father, whereupon Hagoromo touched Ashura's forehead with his 2 fingers and passed on his yang chakra, also included 6 paths senjutsu powers. In another part of the village, Indra had just killed his 2 most loyal followers with a tear-stained face. Have a single thought in his mind: whenever someone close to me dies, my Sharingan evolves. Soon, his Sharingan evolved to the Mangekyo Sharingan. 3 tomos converging in together to take the shape of 6-pointed star. Furious over his father's choice and being denied what he felt was his, Indra challenged his father's decision. Overcome with anger, jealousy and hate, Indra attacked Ashura, trying to claim what he felt was his birthright. However, Ashura, with the help of others' chakra converging with his and his Raikudo, 6 paths powers, awakened the ability to use Mokuden and could defeat his older brother. Indra, not taking his loss lightly, left the area before stating he would never follow his way of Ninshu and spend his life trying to destroy him. A few weeks after Indra had left, Hagoromo was counting his final few months on his bed. He knew he didn't have very long to live. He also knew once he dies, the Jubi would be free again. To prevent that, he separated the chakra of the 10 tails into 9 separate parts, and using Omnyoten, Banbutsu Sozo, creation of all things, made bodies for the 9 chakras ranging from Ikibi, 1 tails, to Kyubi, 9 tails. He later breathed life into his 9 children. Hagoromo called the bijus his children, and put the chakra in the respective bodies, each biju having a different ability. A few months later, Hagoromo went to his mindscape to have few last words with his 9 children. He looked at Kurama, Kyubi, with a somber look on his face. Kurama had a few tears rolling down his face, though he was trying hard to keep up the tough act. He was his eldest child and knew how much it would hurt him. A few seconds later he looked at all of them with a serene smile on his face and said, "I will not live much longer." Shukaku, 1 tails Matabi, 2 tails Isobu, 3 tails Son Goku, 4 tails Kokuo, 5 tails Seiken, 6 tails Chome, 7 tails Yuki, 8 tails, and Kurama, 9 tails. Even if you are far apart, you will always be together. You will be in different sizes from how you are now and have different names. But there will come a time when you will be led down the right path. I hope you learn what true strength is. Hagoromo looks at Kurama and smiles slightly and says, "Before that time." The feud between the brothers escalated between their respective families, causing war to erupt between them, which continued for ages to come. Never ending through the generations, endless bitter hatred. Indra's descendant took the name Uchiha. The flames of their hatred continuously burning. While Ashura's descendant would later be called the Senju clans, inheriting their forefathers' ideals of peaceful coexistence and love. Later down the line, a man named Saito Senju left his brethren who were more concerned with the war era. Saito himself was a peace-loving man. As the years passed, Saito changed his name to Saito Uzumaki and mastered the arts of Fuinjutsu and Kenjutsu to an impressive degree where he could call himself a master in those fields. He soon married a woman named Toshiri Kurihara and lived his life away from the fighting. Although he did keep close relation to the Senjus, Saito lived 4 or 5 centuries before the warring era state. However, something occurred that had not been seen before. While the 2 brothers died, their chakra remained even after their bodies were destroyed, causing the brothers to reincarnate themselves into other individuals throughout the history within their descendants, fueling and continuing the brothers' bloody battle. And with each transmigration, the reincarnations would grow stronger. Thus, after several generations, came the story of Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha, the reincarnations of Ashura and Indra Otsutsuki. They two started out as friends and saw each other as brothers. The two often fought among themselves, but it wasn't something they couldn't shake off. Eventually, the Senju and Uchiha clans founded Konohagakure no Sato, village hidden in the leaves. But somewhere along the line, especially after the death of his brother, Izuna Uchiha, Madara started to see what he currently believed in was only a hollow truth. That his current belief wouldn't bring the kind of peace he and his brother wished for, and coupled with the pain of his brother's death, made his belief waver and his hatred towards the shinobi world increase. So, Hashirama and Madara battled again, continuing the feud between Indra and Ashura. Madara eventually fell in battle against Hashirama. Soon, Hashirama too succumbed to his extreme injuries and passed away. Once again Ashura and Indra would reincarnate in their descendants. This time stronger than before, and somehow, they both knew their battles in this life would escalate to become more gruesome, bloodier, and would be a path that would turn them topsy-turvy. In every shinobi village, there is a reminder of their previous leaders and heroes to honor their memory and sacrifices they made to protect and defend their homes. In Konohagakure no Sato, there is a certain mountain that shows exactly that. The mountain is called the Hokage, leader of Konoha mountain, and in it are carved the previous and current Hokage of the leaf and portrays the faces of the legendary shinobis. Hashirama Senju, Shodaime Hokage, was the former leader of the Senju clan, one of the co-founders of the Leaf Village and the first user of the Mokuden element. He was a caring and kind person who only wished for peace among the different lands. All the villagers had an utmost respect for him. He had married a woman named Mito Uzumaki from the Uzumaki clan, who were a sister clan to the Senju clan. Following his battle with his best friend, Madara Uchiha, and during one of the many wars that were raging during the revolutionary era, Hashirama had developed mortal wounds that rendered him unable to fight. Due to his weakened state, he had to pass on the mantle of Hokage to his brother, Tobirama Senju. He was at the time of his death, a shell of his former self. But even now, about 5 decades after his death, he's still remembered by everyone in the village as one of the greatest Hokages to have ever served Konoha. The second face belonged to Tobirama Senju, Nadaime Hokage. He was Hashirama's younger brother and became Hokage shortly before his brother's death. He too was an exceptionally strong shinobi. In fact, each of the Hokage were hailed as the strongest shinobi of their time. Tobirama was known for his sensory abilities and extremely strong Suiten affinity, water affinity. It allowed him to use high-rank Suiten techniques in places without any water source by condensing the water molecules present in the air. He lost his life fighting in the First Shinobi World War. But before his death, he appointed Hiruzen Sarutobi, one of his students, as the Sandaime Hokage. The third face on the monument was of Hiruzen Sarutobi of the Sarutobi clan, known for their monkey summoning and extreme skill in taijutsu, hand-to-hand combat. Hiruzen is currently around 41 years old. He's one of the most powerful shinobi in the village, but in his prime he was given the moniker of Shinobi no Kami. Mostly because of his proficient skill in taijutsu and his ability to use all forms of chakra nature that allowed him to use a wide range of elemental ninjutsu. Hiruzen is the current leader of the Leaf Village. It was a time of recuperation among the Great Five Nations: Fire, Wind, Water, Earth and Lightning Nation. The Third Great Shinobi World War had ended a while back. Even though there weren't any more battles taking place among nations, they were still weary of each other and were keeping track of other villages' rate of progress. Nations were left winded and were severely weakened as most their shinobi had perished fighting for their nation village. Although one could say it was Iwagakure no Sato and Kurigakure no Sato who had suffered the most among the Great Five Nations. Iwagakure because of a man who showed unparalleled battle prowess in the age of this war and one who single-handedly won his nation the war. This man was Konoha no Kuroi Senko, Yellow Flash of Leaf. Among his peers, he was called Minato Namikaze. He stands at an even height of 6 feet. His hair was golden blonde, which was rare no matter which country you were in. The hair was spiky and went down to his shoulders, 2 large bangs framed his face, while several smaller bangs hovered just a little over his eyes. His eyes were a mix of violet and blue, although it mostly looked violet in color. Holding up those bangs was a Hidia 8 with Konoha leaf symbol on it, the tie itself was blue. His clothing consisted of a pair of blue shinobi pants, which were wrapped from mid-calf in white bandages that went into a pair of black combat boots. His shirt was blue and covered his whole arms and skin tight. Over it he wore a Junin flak jacket. Now Kurigakure no Sato seemed mostly neutral in the war and played their cards when they felt it was plausible. They didn't lose much of their shinobi unlike the other nations. However, they did lose their Biju-tailed beast, Sanbi, 3 tails, to Konoha in their attempt to set the Biju free inside the Leaf Village. Kurigakure is now only left with Rokubi, 6 tails, which is sealed inside Yagura. Even though the cards were stacked against Konohagakure no Sato, they emerged victorious in the Third Shinobi World War. They were put against Kumogakure no Sato, Iwagakure no Sato and Kurigakure no Sato, and yet they fought to keep their nation safe from harm. Konoha always believed in the phrase, high number Ishi, will of fire. It is their belief that one must possess the high number Ishi to feel the need to protect their home and precious people, which in turn brings out their latent ability to surface. The shinobi of Konoha fought together, bled together and emerged victorious together at the end of the gruesome war. A couple of months after the Third Shinobi War, when the situation around the different villages had cooled down a bit, Sandaime Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen stepped down as Hokage to pass on the hat to his successor, Minato Namikaze, who was chosen as the Yondaime Hokage, 4th Hokage. Minato was beyond glad. He had achieved one of his dreams, of being able to lead his village as Hokage one day, and another one would be coming true too in the coming months, of starting a family. Kushina and he married secretly earlier, when the war was still on. Their wedding gathering was kept to a bare minimum. Hiruzen, Bawako, Jiraiya and Tsunade being the only one. A month ago, Kushina had informed him that he was going to be a father. Words couldn't explain how happy he felt at that time. Being an orphan himself, he understood the value of family. Everyone felt it was time for Sarutobi to step down as Hokage. Even though he was one of the strongest shinobi in the elemental nations, it was obvious the job was demanding a lot of him. Leading your village to victory in 2 great shinobi wars as Hokage was not an easy job. Sarutobi still grimaced at many of his failures during his time as Hokage. The fate of the Uzumaki clan is such. Tobirama Senju had selected him as Sandaime after his death, at the end of the First Shinobi World War. The Second Shinobi War was almost over. Kurigakure had retreated from the war as they didn't have many soldiers to offer to Kumogakure and Iwagakure. To salvage something from this war in their favor, Iwagakure and Kumogakure formed an alliance with Tsunagakure to launch an all-out attack on Uzi no Kuni with their remaining shinobi, which was the residing place of the famed Uzumaki clan. The Uzumaki clan were known for their mastery in Fuinjutsu and Kenjutsu. The other nations feared the might of the Fire Nation when coupled with those from Uzi no Kuni. As the saying goes, to cripple an enemy one must get rid of their allies, when the enemy is at their weakest. It was a single clan against 3 great nations. The Uzumaki clan had gotten sent a request to Konoha to aid them in the battle. Hiruzen knew, at that point of time, his village didn't have the strength to stand up against 3 great villages. Yet, he sent some of his best men to get those out who were still alive by the end of the battle. Speaking of the battle, it was bloody. The whirlpools surrounding the land were glowing in red. The land gave off a heavy stink of iron. Bodies were slaughtered. Even though the Uzumaki clan was wiped out, they ended up destroying 3/4 of the enemy. There was one girl who was found hidden out of sights. She was Kushina Uzumaki, daughter of the deceased Uzukage. She was taken to Konoha and she stayed with Mito Uzumaki, given the two were relatives. Kushina had an incredibly potent chakra, through which she could make chakra chains. That was an ability Kushina discovered she shared with Mito. Even among the Uzumaki, not everyone had the ability to create chains from chakra. It was said that these chakra chains had the ability to hold down Bijus, tailed beasts, itself. Hiruzen did everything he could to make sure Kushina had a normal childhood in Konoha. For a child to witness the horrors of a war is never a pleasant thing. Mito, who was the jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko, in her old age had to pass on the Kyuubi to Kushina. It was not because she wanted to. It was out of necessity, and only an Uzumaki could contain the great beast. Thus, Kushina Uzumaki became the second jinchuriki of the nine-tailed demon fox. He grimaced again thinking about Rin Nohara and Naruto's fate. She was a student of Minato. She had an average height, one of the most beautiful brown hair, and a single purple stripe on each cheek like that of the Inuzuka clan. She was in a genin team with Kakashi Hatake and Obito Uchiha. Although Kakashi showed a cold demeanor to almost everyone after his father, Tsukumo Hatake's death, he tried to get along with his team. Rin was sort of the moderator of the team. She kept Kakashi and Obito in check whenever they got in a fight. Even though Rin wasn't a frontline fighter like her teammates, she excelled in medical field. She and Kakashi got closer after Obito's untimely death during their first C-rank mission on Kanobi Bridge at the end of the Third Shinobi War. It was that mission that gave rise to Sharingan no Kakashi. Obito, during his final moments, gave his newly awakened Sharingan to Kakashi as a gift for his promotion to Junin. To make sure she did not have to witness another death of one of her colleagues, she worked hard day in and day out to improve her medical ninjutsu. Hiruzen still remembered Rin asking him if Tsunade would be returning to village anytime soon, as she wanted to further her studies under Tsunade if she agreed to help her. When the Third Shinobi War was its end, Kurigakure kidnapped Rin from within the Leaf Village. She was made into the Sanbi Jinchuriki with an extremely weak seal which would release the Sanbi once she's within the Leaf Village and eventually kill her. It was Kakashi who first noticed that she was missing from the village. He immediately informed the Sandaime and Minato about this. Minato and Kakashi soon went after her trail and found her among several Kiri Anbu. Both of them took quick care of the Anbu around and quickly returned to the village. Fortunately for Rin as well as the Leaf Village, Jiraiya and Minato fixed the seal for the time being. Rin's chakra wasn't powerful enough to hold down a Biju. Also, the sudden influx of the Three Tails' potent chakra was overwhelming her chakra coils. Hence, their predicament being that they had to look for a new Jinchuriki and somehow convince Tsunade to come back. She was the only one who had the expertise to save Rin, after the extraction of the Biju. Rin had to be kept in the hospital's separate wing only meant for the Hokage. She was under constant supervision to ensure her safety. The only soon-to-be-born child who would be strong enough to hold Sanbi down was Naruto. Being an Uzumaki provided him with potent chakra and longevity. Kushina at first was adamant about not being able to bring herself to do it to her baby son. It wasn't any less difficult for Minato. But he knew, as a soon-to-be Kage, the welfare of the village will fall on his hands. Also, with Kushina and him alive, they will be able to look after Naruto. Kushina, being a Jinchuriki herself, could help Naruto with the hardships that came with the life. Thus, after many arguments and stating the pros of making their son the Sanbi Jinchuriki, Kushina agreed to it. Minato planned to use the Hake Fuin 8 tetragram seal for the sealing of the Three Tails. The only people aware of this situation were Minato, Jiraiya, Sandaime, Kushina, Kakashi, and the three elders of Konoha. Them being Danzo Shimura, Homura Mitokado, and Kaharu Udatane. 4 months after Minato was chosen as the Yondaime Hokage, and because of the end of Third Shinobi War, a temporary peace had prevailed across different villages. The populace of Konoha seemed pleased and safe with Minato as their Hokage. They knew he would protect them from all uncertainties. The civilians and ninja alike went as far as to claim Minato as the greatest hero the Hidden Leaf Village had seen. He was the first shinobi in the elemental nations to be given the SS rank status and a flea on-site order. He was also able to convince Tsunade to return to village. When Minato explained the situation to her, she couldn't bring herself to say no to him, looking at his pleading face and the predicament he and his family was in. Jiraiya too stayed more in the village to have a regular check on Rin's seal, and because of Tsunade, Minato, and Kushina. 4 months later. In the past 4 months, a lot had changed in the Konohagakure no Sato. Since Minato's ascension to the Hokage position, he had taken control of the shinobi and civilian council in his hand. No council could act without his knowledge, nor could they hold any meetings in the council chamber without alerting him regarding the issue at hand. Only in case of war will the shinobi council gain complete autonomy of making any decision concerning the welfare of the village. The civilian council, though they argued against that, begrudgingly agreed upon being reminded who the leader of the village is. The medical facility of the village had vastly improved since Tsunade had taken control of workings of the hospital. Her apprentice Shizune Kato had helped her immensely in this aspect. She was glad her suggestion of one medic per team was authorized by Minato. This would increase the survival rate of the shinobi during missions greatly if the medics are trained accurately. She had started a program of selecting young genins who had good chakra control to be taught in the arts of medical ninjutsu. Rin's condition, although it was still fragile, seemed to be more stable since Tsunade took charge of her health. She had to apply healing chakra over her chakra network daily to keep the stress of Sanbi's potent chakra to a minimum. The guards were still posted outside of Rin's room in case of an emergency. Kakashi too had changed from his cold demeanor towards everyone. He had joined up in Anbu now, seeing as his team was no more. He started appreciating his comrades more, though he wasn't sure whether to be thankful for the cause of this change. He had lost a lot in life. From his father committing seppuku, suicide, to one of his teammates, now closest friend, dying, and now another on the verge of dying. Kakashi was glad to have found a father figure in his sensei. Minato and Kushina were both close to Obito, Rin and Kakashi. Obito's death had saddened them both, and now seeing Rin in her current condition didn't make situation any easy for them. Kakashi knew Minato was going to have a child soon, and the decision of the three tails to be sealed into him. He vowed to himself to look after the kid and help him guide along the right path. Kakashi was also glad to have little brother figure soon in his life. Night of October 10th. Jiraiya, Minato, Kushina, Tsunade and Hiruzen were inside Hokage office. There were seals glowing around the room, alerting the people in the room of the fact that they were not going to be disturbed or overheard. Minato was sitting behind his desk with Hiruzen standing next to him. Kushina was sitting on a nearby sofa along with Tsunade. Jiraiya was standing in a corner across the room. The last few months had also taken its toll on everyone. Kushina was suffering from exhaustion during pregnancy. She was constantly worried about her seal, which held the 9 tails, and about the sealing of the 3 tails into Naruto. Minato was working constantly as well along with Jiraiya to ensure the 9 tails didn't break free during the child delivery and the sealing of the 3 tails. Jiraiya stood looking at the people in the room. He sighed knowing that his apprentice was worried. Even he was. Until the ordeal of Naruto's birth and the sealing of Sanbi was over with, none of them could act naturally. He often took care of Kushina at her house when the others were busy with their work. He really thought of her as a daughter now from these last few months. Minato and Kushina even asked him to be the godfather of their kid. He was of course happy to accept. Seeing that everyone has been quiet for a while, Hiruzen cleared his throat to gain everyone's attention. As we know, Kushina will deliver the child at the safety of the Hokage safehouse. Only we, the caretakers, Bawako and Tsunade in charge of delivering Naruto, know what is happening. Tsunade, would you ask Shizune-chan to stay with Rin since you won't be around to check up on her tonight? Tsunade nodded. Once Naruto is delivered, Jiraiya will take him to the sealing chambers and Minato will recheck the seal holding Kyuubi. Later, Minato will get Rin to the sealing chambers, where the 3 tails will be safely transferred to Naruto. While the sealing will take place, Shizune-chan will look after Kushina and Tsunade will be alongside Rin to ensure her safety after the extraction of the 3 tails. Does everyone understand? Hi, everyone said at once. Good. The task beings tonight. Minato and Jiraiya, have you prepared yourself for any case? Hi Hiruzen-sama, Minato said. Jiraiya settled for nodding his head. Good. I will see you all when this is over then. Be careful and good luck. Tsunade, Bawako and the caretakers had already arrived at the Hokage safe house along with Kushina, who was beginning to go in her labor. Outside the safe house were several Anbu, who were guarding the place. They had been briefed on the details and had been sworn to utmost secrecy by both the Sandaime and Yondaime. Minato along with Jiraiya soon arrived at the Hokage safe house and saw Kushina already in labor. Minato dashed to Kushina's side and saw her screaming and held one of her hands with his left and his right hand on Kushina's seal to hold back the Kyuubi. Jiraiya stood next to his pupil while Tsunade and Bawako were working on the child's delivery. Ah! Screamed Kushina as she was starting to push, fully clad in a hospital gown and a sheen of sweat coating her face. Come on Kushina, you're doing fine. Minato said in a soothing excitement as he stood next to the mother of his child. Kushina gulped in more air to let out another agonizing scream. Damn you Minato. This is all your fault, you bastard. She roared at the Hokage as she crushed his hand that held hers as a sign of support. The blonde male did his best to not grunt in pain while also keeping the Kyuubi in check. But he couldn't help himself from falling to his knees from the woman's deathly grip. That's it Kushina-chan, you're nearly there. I'm starting to see the head. Tsunade exclaimed. Just hurry the hell up and get him out of me. Kushina shouted back. You're doing great Kushina. Just a little more and it will all be over soon. Encouraged Minato. Oh, don't give me that. I wouldn't even be in this mess if it wasn't for you. You know. Screamed Kushina. With a sporadic mind in the heat of the moment, she suddenly raised her free hand to strike the young Kage in the face. Before she could hit him though, Minato quickly used the Kawirami no Jutsu, substitution jutsu, to replace himself with the nearest thing to him and quickly placed both his hands on Kushina's seal to keep the Biju in check. Unfortunately for the target, who was Jiraiya, was quickly launched through the walls by Kushina's punch. Sorry sensei, better you than me. The strength of her hits is almost on par with Tsunade-sama. It's just scary. Minato thought sympathetically as he gazed at the Jiraiya-shaped hole in the wall. The legendary shinobi's legs were sticking out and dangling over the broken piece of the wall and were the only parts of him visible from his laid position on his back. Luckily, the room he burst into was empty, leaving only the small group to hear his groans of misery. Although Tsunade wanted to laugh witnessing the scene in front of her, she couldn't as she currently had to focus on getting Naruto out of his mother. Minato was pulled out of his train of thought when Kushina screamed again. Get this fucking kid out before he kills me. It's almost done Kushi-chan. Just one more push. Tsunade said eagerly. You heard her, you're almost there. You can do it. Minato added with a growing smile. Kushina glared with her violet eyes at Minato and gave him a death glare. Shut up. I would like to see you try and push out a child that doesn't want to leave. It was but after a minute or two when Kushina gave one final shout of exertion and the first cry from the baby silenced the room. Tsunade wasn't stopped and with a gentle smile grabbed the newborn and cut the umbilical cord. Cleaned and wrapped him up in a small forest green blanket before handing her to Kushina. Minato was overjoyed hearing his son's first cry. He couldn't believe he was a father now. By this time Jiraiya had already recovered from his unfortunate accident and stood beside Minato with a wide smile on his face. So, Minato, how do you feel? Now that you are a father? Jiraiya asked eagerly. I don't know sensei. It's overwhelming, said Minato in a trance-like state. Just as Tsunade handed the baby to her daughter-like figure, she gently said, Kushi-chan, allow me to introduce you to your son, Uzumaki Naruto. Meanwhile, Hirsuen was calmly looking at the village from top of the Hokage tower. Suddenly he felt the wind change. He knew something important has taken place or is going to take place. One may call it years of shinobi experience or just an aged man's intuition. He knew the coming time is going to be certainly different. He just didn't know how right he was. The Toads have been one of summoning contracts of Konohagakure no Sato for around 3 decades now. They are said to be among the mightiest summons including the slugs and the snakes. Mount Myoboku is the place where the Toad clan resides. Among the Toads, there was one extremely old Toad who was known by their summoner and the other Toads as the Grand Toad Elder. He was the size of a battle toad, almost half the size of the Hokage monument. But in his old age, he couldn't move around much. Hence, he sat in his seat almost all the time. He too felt the sudden change in wind and instantly had a small smile on his aged wrinkled face. He now knew, the prophecy he prophesied about a very long time back to his friend had begun. He immediately called upon the nearby toads to ask them to inform Fukasaku to summon Jiraiya as soon as possible. Back in Konoha at the Hokage safe house, the tired but happy Kushina gazed down at the still crying baby in her arms with glistening eyes. "Hello little one," she cooed as she brushed her hands over the baby's bright blonde hair which seemed long for his age, smiling with as much love as she could muster. Soon Naruto stopped crying as he looked up to his mother to show his curious and mesmerizing violet eyes. After what seemed like an eternity of childish contemplation, he finally smiled back, making him look even more adorable to everyone else. "Look, his eyes are violet just like Minato and Kushina, although he has Minato's hair and face. He's almost like a mini Minato," Jiraiya said with a chuckle. "Yes, but it looks like he has Kushina's nose, chin and ears. His skin tone is even a lighter shade like Kushina's and his eyes are the same shape as hers. Oh, and look at those whisker marks." Tsunade almost squealed at the end out of pure adoration towards the adorable baby Naruto. "He isn't he?" Kushina whispered more to herself. She couldn't keep the smile from her face as she took in every detail of the baby. In her mind, he was the most adorable thing she had ever seen and most probably the most beautiful entity. "Don't you agree, Minato?" Kushina asked without looking away. "Definitely, and when he gets older he'll be popular with the ladies." Minato chuckled with a slight gleaming gaze. Like those hussies have a chance with my Naru-chan. Let them try and sink their claws in my baby. They must deal with me then," said Kushina with mock glare at Minato, which made everyone chuckle instead of him, who just felt a slight shiver run down his spine. Minato slowly kneeled and touched his son's face and kissed him on the forehead, making him gurgle. He then looked Kushina straight in the eyes with a loving gaze and said, "Thank you, Kushi-chan. He's the most beautiful thing we have ever done together. And I promise, I shall protect our baby boy and you with all that I have in me." Suddenly there was a puff of smoke and Fukasaku was standing on Jiraiya's shoulder. He looked around where he was and his eyes fell on Naruto's smiling form still looking around curiously. Is he the child Great Toad Elder was talking about? Fukasaku thought and then tried to get a sense of his still undeveloped chakra coils in the baby's body using senjutsu. Astounding. The potency of his chakra which is going to be formed will be unimaginable. Fukasaku thought amazed. "What are you doing here, Fukasaku-sensei?" Jiraiya asked. "Oh, Jiraiya-chan, the Great Toad Elder has summoned you, and it's important. It's about the prophecy," Fukasaku said, finally taking his eyes off Naruto. Naruto, meanwhile, was looking at the talking toad in a very manner and gurgled as if trying to laugh. "Now, do we really have to go now? Naruto is born right now. Can't it be done a bit later?" Jiraiya asked. "No, it can't be, Jiraiya-chan. It's necessary." Jiraiya looked a bit down upon hearing that. He looked at Minato and gave him a knowing look. Soon, Jiraiya along with Fukasaku vanished out of everyone's sight, indicating that they were reverse summoned. "Kushi-chan, I'd like to take Naruto to the maternity ward to make sure that he's in good health. I also want to give you a sedative that will make you sleep for a while so that your body can rest and recover from the strain," said Tsunade professionally. "Fine, but I don't want anyone going but you touching my Naru-chan. Is that clear?" Kushina requested tiredly, the excitement finally getting to her mentally and physically. She immediately fell into unconsciousness as her eyes became to drool from the heavy exhaustion her body recently go through. "Of course, I wasn't going to let anyone near him anyhow," Tsunade whispered slowly before proceeding to take Naruto from Kushina's hands. Just as Tsunade took baby Naruto into her arms, there was swirling of air beside her, from which a man appeared. He kicked Tsunade away and took Naruto into his arms and immediately put a kunai through Bawako's heart, who ran toward Naruto upon seeing him being taken by an unknown individual. Tsunade had quickly recovered upon being kicked away and saw that Minato was helping her up. Screams ran through the room as the pair saw Bawako and the caretakers fall to the ground around them. Minato and Tsunade finally saw a man now standing in Tsunade's previous place, an orange mask on his face and a black cloak over his body. He held Naruto in his arms, who was crying hysterically, with a kunai ready to kill him too. Naruto! Minato and Tsunade shouted. Meanwhile in Mount Myoboku, Jiraiya along with Fukasaku, who was now standing on the ground beside him, were now standing in the sacred land of the toads. In front of Jiraiya, there were several statues of toads which seemed to be made of stone. These statues were in fact living toads who failed to control the amount of senjutsu chakra flowing through their body. So, what's the matter, sensei? Jiraiya asked, looking down at the small toad beside him. Walk with me, Jiraiya-chan, and all shall be explained to you in due time, said Fukasaku. Hey, don't talk with me in riddles. Tell me what's going on that you had to bring me all the way here at such an important time, Jiraiya said indignantly. Fukasaku remained calm and did not bother replying to the self-proclaimed pervert and started walking towards the chambers where the great toad elder resided. Jiraiya, seeing that he wasn't going to get any answers from him, decided to follow him to the older sage. On the way to the chambers, Jiraiya voiced his concerns. You said it's about the prophecy. Has the elder Sama had another dream regarding the child of prophecy? Jiraiya inquired in a serious manner. It's not a dream per se. He says he felt a sudden change in the wind. His senjutsu prowess is even greater than mine. So, it should not surprise you he could feel something or someone as far as in Konoha. He did not tell me much about it. Just that it has something important to do regarding that prophecy and asked me to summon you immediately, said Fukasaku, still looking in front of him. Jiraiya and Fukasaku soon reached upon two large doors which were guarded two battle-attired toads. The two toads, upon seeing the pair walking towards the door, opened it for them. The great toad elder, who was sitting on his seat, had his eyes closed while Jiraiya and Fukasaku approached him. Upon looking at him, one might say he's just a senile old geezer who seems to be oblivious to his surroundings. Which is true to some point, as the elder toad seems have a sort of short-term memory at times. Fukasaku croaked once to gain the great elder toad's attention and said, I have summoned Jiraiya-chan for you. Who did you summon again? The old toad asked, not remembering himself asking Fukasaku to summon anyone. You senile old fart, Jiraiya-chan, our summoner. You asked me to summon him regarding the child of prophecy, yelled an annoyed Fukasaku. Ah, yes, Jiraiya, spoke the elder toad as if he remembered something important now. All this while, Jiraiya, who was standing beside Fukasaku, sighed upon hearing his conversation again, for most probably the 1000th time. Jiraiya bowed to him once and spoke, Elder Sama, why is it that you have summoned me? Fukasaku-sensei told me it is something important regarding the child of prophecy. He now looked straight at the great elder toad and said proudly, I know Minato as the child of prophecy. He has excelled me in all aspects of being a shinobi. He even surpassed me in senjutsu training. Although, I shouldn't be much surprised. He was always a prodigy when it came to shinbi arts. He even shares the same dream as me, of bringing peace to this war-stricken world. Jiraiya was indeed very proud of his prized pupil. Minato was his greatest accomplishment till now, and he believed he would be till the very end. The elder toad seemed amused upon hearing what Jiraiya had to say. The child of prophecy has taken birth today, Jiraiya. I'm certain of it. This sudden change of wind, I have felt it only once before. And this time the wind seems much stronger than the previous time I felt. Spoke the great toad sagely. Do you remember the prophecy I told you about? Asked the elder toad. Yes, I do remember. There will come a time, when a man who proclaims himself as a hermit shall lead a boy with violet eyes to bring about a great change in the accursed war-stricken world. This child shall unite all the Bijus and befriend them. That is what you told me a long time back, said Jiraiya. Yes, that is true. The child has taken birth today. You must look after him, Jiraiya. Train him, teach him the ways of the world and make sure his heart stays pure. The child shall be the guide that will lead this dark world into the light. Spoke the great elder toad looking at Jiraiya. Jiraiya, for his part, did not know what to think. He always believed that Minato was the child of prophecy. So being told that he isn't, he felt disappointed. Thinking again, the only child Jiraiya knows that was born today was Naruto. Jiraiya now felt surprised finding out that Minato's kid is to be the one to become the light in the dark. Are you sure about this? Is it not a bit too soon to tell? Said Jiraiya with a hint of uncertainty in his voice. Yes, I am sure of it. I haven't felt such presence in 1,000 years. The child has the potential to become the second coming of Raikudo Sennin, Sage of Six Paths. Jiraiya, you must make sure the child grows up peacefully and grows to love the world around him. The child seems to have one of the purest hearts I have sensed. I am sure even Fukasaku shares similar thoughts as me. Spoke the great elder toad. Jiraiya looked at Fukasaku and saw him nod once. Jiraiya, although was saddened that his first prediction hadn't come true about Minato, but at the same time was filled with joy about Naruto, his godson. He vowed to himself to be there for Naruto, look after him like his own grandson and teach him the ways of the shinobi. He would instill every bit of knowledge in Naruto as he would grow up and make sure Naruto enjoys the world around him as much. You don't have to ask me to look after him, Elder Sama. I shall look after my grandson. Jiraiya views Minato as his own son, hence he calls Naruto his grandson, to the best of my abilities and make sure he grows up to be a fine man. Said the Toad Sage Hermit proudly and bowed to him once. Jiraiya and Fukasaku soon left the chambers and went to the same place they appeared first when they left Konoha, with Fukasaku once again on Jiraiya's shoulder. Well, Jiraiya-chan, you know what to do now. Naruto-chan will grow up to be an important boy in the future. If you want to finish your senjutsu training anytime soon, you can come to me and Ma anytime you want. Said Fukasaku. Yes, Fukasaku-sensei. I will finish it soon. Now is not the time, I suppose. It was a lot to take in initially. But now that I think about it, Naruto is the son of two legendary shinobis, Minato and Kushina. And Minato has already surpassed in almost everything. Naruto is bound to grow up to be powerful figure both in terms of being a shinobi and in getting the ladies. Jiraiya said with a lecherous grin at the end in the hopes of getting inspiration for his future Ika Ika Paradise books. Fukasaku did not know what to do with him anymore and just ignored his last comment. Off you go now, Jiraiya-chan. Enjoy the first moments of Naruto-chan. Said the small toad as he hopped off Jiraiya's shoulder and prepared to send Jiraiya back to Konoha. Jiraiya soon found himself standing in the same place, before he went to Mount Myoboku. He saw that Kushina was unconscious and Minato was standing beside Tsunade, who seemed to be hurt, and Minato had a worried look on his face. Jiraiya immediately ran towards them and looked around the room to see dead bodies of the caretakers and Bawako lying in the pool of their own blood. Yondaime Hokage, step away from the jinchuriki or your child dies. Spoke the masked man calmly. Minato. Jiraiya and Tsunade shouted. Just calm down. We can work this out. Minato said. What do you want with Kushina, you bastard? Asked an enraged Tsunade. Oh, you know. Just this and that. Take the Kyuubi out and destroy the village. The masked man said in a sarcastic voice. You are not getting your hands on her. You got to deal with the three of us first. Said Jiraiya. Jiraiya-sensei, do not do anything too quickly. He still has Naruto with him. We must get him to safety. Tsunade-sama, can you look after Kushina first? Minato asked without taking his eyes off the man who held his newborn. Tsunade nodded and was just about to move to Kushina when the masked man spoke again. Do you care about your child, Yondaime Hokage? The masked man asked. I do. Minato said. Choose now, Yondaime. The masked man shouted. With that, he tossed Naruto up into the air and held his kunai underneath, ready to kill him. Minato dashed across the room in a yellow flash and caught him. The man disappeared with speed and went to grab Kushina. Tsunade and Jiraiya, seeing the man move towards Kushina, went to intercept him with speeds that could only be rivaled by a cage. Jiraiya had a Rasengan formed in his right hand and Tsunade had amassed a great amount of chakra in her left hand to smash the masked bastard into the next life. But what happened next caught all the people in the room off guard. The Rasengan in Jiraiya's hand and Tsunade's punch phased right through the masked man and he just walked right through them as if they weren't even there. What? Both Jiraiya and Tsunade asked, bewildered, before plowing straight through the wall leading outside. The masked man grabbed Kushina and disappeared, but not before going through a half-tiger sign when a sizzling sound was heard straight from Naruto's towel. Shit. Minato cursed before tearing off the towel and used Hiraishin to teleport them outside their house, when an explosion went off. Minato saw Tsunade and Jiraiya kneeling on the grass, silently cursing themselves for their lacks of judgment. Jiraiya-sensei, Tsunade-sama. Minato shouted and dashed over to them. I'm fine. We should have known better than to underestimate him. He got past the special Anbu outside and got through the barrier put up by you and Jiraiya. Tsunade said with a downcast look. We have to assume the worst. Get back to the village and inform Sandaime-sama of everything that has transpired here. Take Naruto to with you sensei and keep him safe. Tsunade-sama, could you go and check on Rin? He may also be after her considering he's after the Kyuubi. Minato said before turning away. Alright, but where are you going, Minato? Tsunade asked. Hopefully to put a stop to this before it even starts. Minato said determined. Tsunade nodded and immediately ran back to the village. Jiraiya stepped in front of Minato and took Naruto away from him, who had quieted down now. Jiraiya turned to leave but Minato put a hand on his shoulder, stopping him for a moment. Let me mark you with my Hiraishin seal just in case. Push some chakra into it if you do require it. There was a silence, then Minato said, if all else fails, promise you won't stop me from what I must do as the Hokage. Jiraiya froze on his spot when he heard those words from Minato and the look he had on his face. Jiraiya knew it all too well, that look on one's face. Jiraiya also knew that he was a tad bit afraid now. He was aware Minato was plenty strong, but you never know what may happen in the heat of the moment and what actions one may be forced to take depending on how dire the situation might become. Jiraiya had always looked at Minato like his own son and these past few months had only strengthened their bond, and he hoped everyone remained safe after tonight's ordeal was done with. Jiraiya looked at Naruto, then at Minato and said, I won't get in your way, and I will be the godfather that Naruto needs and make him into a fine man. Minato nodded and disappeared once more in a yellow flash. Jiraiya sighed and put Naruto down next to him. He went and bit his thumb, putting blood on the palm of his hands and going through hand signs and slamming his hands on the ground while saying Kuchio's number jutsu, summoning jutsu. There was a large cloud of smoke and Jiraiya was now standing atop a giant toad with Naruto in his arms again. The toad had a tanto on his side and was smoking a pipe. He also had a jacket on him. Jiraiya, why did you summon me? No time Gamabunta. The Kyuubi is about to be released. We have to reach the village fast, inform Sarutobi-sensei and get Naruto to safety. Let's go. Gamabunta said with a hop, taking off a long distance, trying to reach the Hokage office within Konoha as soon as possible. Minato soon appeared in the safe house which he had informed Jiraiya about a long time back and grabbed his trademark Yondaime Hokage robes hanging off the wall. He then grabbed a full set of tri-prong kunai and geared up. He checked himself over to make sure he was ready for what he was about to do and what he might have to do if the situation got out of hand. This wasn't supposed to happen. I don't know how it turned out like this. Naruto should have had a normal birth and then Kushina, Naruto and I were supposed to live normally. Guess it wasn't written like that. No, I must not think like that. I can still save Kushina and my village. I just hope we don't have more trouble than we already have coming our way tonight. I'm coming, Kushi-chan. Minato disappeared in a yellow flash towards Kushina's current location, thinking along those lines. Meanwhile, Tsunade was running as fast as she could towards the hospital to make sure Shizune and Rin were okay. She soon reached the hospital and ran towards their room. She saw the guards posted outside the room were dead on the ground and she instantly grew worried and rushed inside the room. The first thing she saw was the aqua blue colored chakra that was bubbling out of Rin's seal, and next to her bed was a bloodied Shizune, who was breathing heavily. Tsunade ran up to Shizune and started healing her immediately. Many of her worst memories were resurfacing now, seeing Shizune in her current state. Shizune was one of the closest people she had, and seeing her like this reminded her a lot of the time when she was trying to save Dan. She quickly ignored those thoughts and focused on healing Shizune. She then saw that Shizune's breathing had stabilized somewhat and knew she was out of danger as of now. She then looked at Rin and felt remorse of not being able to reach here quicker and growing anger towards the masked man, who most likely was the reason behind this scene, she mused. There was nothing she could do now. She couldn't go near her or touch her. The Biju chakra that was bubbling out of her was poisonous to human skin and would only serve to weaken her. She only had one choice left. Grab Shizune, get out of here and try saving those who would be able to survive the coming attack on Konohagakure no Sato. The combined attack of the 9 tails and the 3 tails was not something any village could come out unscathed, but she had hope in her village. They had come out of worse situations and emerged victorious. But she wondered what the cost would be this time, that is, if they do somehow come out of this predicament. Tsunade kept staring at Rin for a few while. Looking at her, she assumed it would still be a few minutes before the seal set by Minato and Jiraiya would break and release the Sanbi into the village. She picked up Shizune and jumped through the open window and went to a slightly far away area, away from the center of the village, where she can treat the younger girl properly. Tsunade then made a seal-less cage bunshin and ordered it to inform Sarutobi-sensei of Rin's situation. A field outside of the forests of Konohagakure no Sato. The masked man had taken the unconscious Kushina outside of Konoha, to rip the Kyuubi out of the Uzumaki woman. The masked man's 3-tomo Sharingan had now morphed into the legendary Mangekyo Sharingan. It is true that the Mangekyo Sharingan has the capability to put the 9 tails under its genjutsu, but having the capability doesn't mean everyone can do it. One needs immense mental fortitude and strong yin chakra to able to pull of such feat. Kushina was now suspended in midair because of the Fuinjutsu seal that held the 9 tails back was almost undone. Kushina, however, was now near death, and if the seal released there was a good chance she would die. She was suspended above a lake, the Fuinjutsu chained her to the surrounding rocks, and in front of her stood the masked man. How does it feel, Uzumaki Kushina? He asked mockingly. All she could do was breathe to keep herself alive and to restrain the Kyuubi as much as her will could allow. But her hold was weakening. Now, it is time, I suppose, for the 9-tailed demon fox to put Konoha down. The man said before making a hand sign. He channeled chakra through himself and formed a contract seal on Kushina's seal and said, Kai. Release. The seal on Kushina that was holding the Kyuubi back completely shattered. The vile red chakra of the 9 tails started coming of Kushina and started taking a shape behind her. Very soon, the tails started forming and in a mere seconds the great Kyuubi no Yoko was unleashed once again in the mortal realm. The fox unleashed a great roar before looking down at the heavily breathing Kushina and the masked man that was staring at the Kyuubi with those accursed red eyes. Kushina tilted her head slightly, looking at the Kyuubi. Unlike most people who assumed the great Kyuubi no Yoko to be mindless demon, the beast was aware that his host was a descendant of his father's son, Ashura Otsutsuki. He was not close to Kushina, but he did not hate her as much, unlike the other humans. The Kyuubi raised one of its paws to strike the masked man, but was stopped by a single glance from him. The masked man stood in front of Kyuubi and saw it began to calm down and was now under control. You'll never get away with this, Kushina said, breathing heavily. Amazing. To be able to survive the extraction of a tailed beast. Those Uzumaki genes are indeed astonishing. It will be befitting for a jinchuriki to die by its own biju. The masked man said, looking at her. Kill her, Kyuubi, he ordered. Just as the 9 tails was about to strike her down, Minato appeared beside her and vanished with Kushina in a yellow flash. Not while I'm alive, Minato shouted. Namikaze Minato, still living up to your name of Konoha no Kuroi Senko. I'm impressed that you managed to find me first. The masked man said calmly. As long as I'm here, Konoha will not fall. Minato said. The Kyuubi is mine now, you cannot stop me. The man said before the Kyuubi roared at Minato. The Kyuubi's tails extended and whipped out to attack Minato, but the Hokage had already flashed a safe distance away, with Kushina in his arms. Impressive, Yondaime Hokage. Let's see how your precious village deals with two-tailed beasts at the same time, said the masked man before pulling the nine-tailed fox into some sort of space-time ninjutsu and disappearing along with it. Minato looked at this and frowned slightly, seeing how the spiral seemed to originate from his mask. He took a good look at Kushina and noticed how her breathing was very minimal at this point. He held her hand and transferred some of his chakra to her. His chakra was not as potent as Kushina's, but it would do the job for now. Am I not too? She said between heavy breaths. Shish now. Stay quiet, it's going to be okay. Minato said. No, it's not, I was dead as soon the nine tails was taken out of me. Promise me, you will take care of Naruto. Kushina pleaded. I promise. Minato said, not looking straight at Kushina's face. She slightly nodded before closing her eyes and giving a slight smile. Her breathing was still heavy and he knew she might not make it. Minato now had tears sliding off his face onto her. Why? He asked himself. He wiped away his tears, then he took his wife close into his arms and flashed to the Hokage's office to regroup with Jiraiya, Tsunade and Sarutobi as he thought of the most likely place where all might be present together. Inside the village, it was quiet in the industrial part of the village. It was a full moon tonight in Konohagakure no Sato and the village seemed almost peaceful. But those who were outside in other parts of the village at this time suddenly felt a sudden chill go down their spines, especially the shinobi. The buildings were mostly closed since it was the night time. The masked man landed softly on the ground and kneeled. He looked around to take in the surroundings. He almost smirked, thinking about the state of the village after his two pets would be done with this village. He then went through hand signs swiftly and shouted, Kuchio's number jutsu. There was a huge cloud of smoke where suddenly the Kyuubi no Yoko was standing and all its nine tails were swishing wildly behind it. It gave a tremendous roar alerting the village of its presence. The masked man stood on top of a building far away and smirked. Now all he was waiting for was the appearance of the three tails, which would be any second now, and then he would put the three tails under his genjutsu to do his bidding. In another part of the village, specifically the hospital, in Rin's room. Her seal containing the Sanbi was almost undone. In another few seconds, there came a massive surge of chakra from her body and the three tails escaped its prison, crushing the hospital where it was now standing. The Sanbi at this point of time was not in its current state of mind. After being sealed away in humans for so long, it wanted nothing more than to destroy these ninjas, humans, who dared to seal him. He looked straight ahead and saw a masked man with an orange mask. The man looked at the three tails straight in the eye, and the last thing the Sanbi would remember for a while would be the masked bastard. Go three tails. Enjoy your time out for the while. Destroy everything around you, shouted the masked man darkly. An hour earlier, Hiruzen was now working at the Hokage's office with a small pile of paperwork in front of him. He did not know how Minato could go through his paperwork at such an immense speed. He cursed himself for not thinking like Minato and continued working. He stamped denial for a shinobi to take leave from his services to the village for a while to rest. He did not even know why his shinobi would want leave at such a crucial period. The war was over only recently, and for the time being, the village needed to undertake more missions to maintain their military strength. He was thinking on these lines when suddenly the door to the Hokage's office was broken down with what he guessed was a punch. The Anbu hidden in the office immediately stepped in front of the Sandaime to protect him from any harm. Tsunade stepped inside the office with a worried look on her face. Upon seeing who the intruder was, Sarutobi ordered the Anbu to step away. Tsunade, what is the meaning of this? Asked the third sternly. Sensei, it's Rin. Her seal is about to be undone. The Sanbi is going to be released. Spoke Tsunade in a rapid voice. Hiruzen immediately turned his rapt attention to her upon hearing that. What do you mean? Where was Shizune? I thought she would be looking after her while you were with Kushina. Speaking of Kushina, where is she now? Seeing as you are not with her. Inquired Sarutobi. I am just a Kage Bunshin. The real one is with Shizune, healing her. When I entered the hospital room, she was knocked out and lying on the ground, bloodied. It was most likely the masked. Before Tsunade could finish what she was saying, both her and Sarutobi felt a large shockwave. Anbu. What was that? A large toad has appeared outside the Hokage Tower Sandame-sama. Spoke one of the Anbu. Tsunade and Sarutobi both knew who it was when they heard the shockwave was caused by a large toad. I will explain everything, sensei. Jiraiya said, jumping in through the window. He turned and looked at the Anbu and said, place the village on emergency orders. Inform the clan heads immediately to keep their clan members hidden in a safe place and evacuate the civilians as soon as possible. Tell the clan heads they will informed of the situation after and if the situation has been dealt with. Hi, the Anbu shouted before disappearing from their spots. Hiruzen stood and looked at Tsunade first and then at Jiraiya, who was holding Naruto in his arms. Prepare yourself, Sarutobi-sensei. The Kyuubi is about to be unsealed and released inside Konohagakure if Minato fails. What are you talking about, Jiraiya? How could this happen? First Tsunade tells me the Three Tails is about to be released any moment now, and now the Nine Tails too. Shouted the aged man in a panicked voice. Jiraiya immediately turned to Tsunade and gave her a knowing look. So, the masked man got to her too. This is terrible. If we are not careful, there will not be a village standing here tomorrow. Facing the Nine Tails itself is no joke, on top of that the Three Tails. God damn it, shouted an agitated Jiraiya. Explain. Briefly, spoke the third Hokage turning to Tsunade. When Naruto was born, I was about to take him to the maternity ward when suddenly a masked man appeared and snatched Naruto from me and held a kunai at his throat, saying if we didn't move away from Kushina he would kill him. Tsunade said. Did either you, Minato or Jiraiya try to apprehend him? We did. But all our attacks phased right through him. It was like he wasn't even there to begin with. Jiraiya spoke now. We are sorry, Sarutobi-sensei. Your wife, Bawako-sama, was killed by the masked assailant. Spoke Tsunade sadly. Jiraiya too looked sadly at his sensei, knowing how close he was to his wife. Sarutobi, upon hearing this, looked down at his feet and did not say anything. Many images and memories Bawako and him flashed through his mind. But he could not let himself break down at this point. His village needed him now. This was the life of a shinobi, he mused. Marching forward no matter what. Where is Minato now? Asked Sarutobi after some silence. Suddenly there was a yellow flash in the room and Minato was standing there with Kushina in his arms. Tsunade-sama, could you heal Kushina as much as possible, please? Asked Minato quickly. Minato then put Kushina on a nearby sofa and Tsunade knelt in front of her and started to heal her. Minato, what happened to Kushina? Was the Kyuubi extracted out of her? Asked the aged Hokage worriedly. Yes, it was. I was late in getting to Kushina. That masked man had already put the Kyuubi under his genjutsu. I believe him to be an Uchiha. But the only Uchiha who was remotely able to control the Nine Tails was Madara. I don't know for sure if it is him or not, said Minato. Jiraiya then stepped in front of Minato and looked him in the eyes. Minato, you know there's no choice other than sealing the Kyuubi into him as well. It was not an easy job for Jiraiya to admit that to Minato, but it was the truth. Sarutobi and Tsunade got astonished looks on their faces upon hearing that statement. Jiraiya continued speaking, now with a serious look on his face. The Hake Fuin is capable of holding up to at least 4-tailed beasts. I could use the Shiki Fuin to seal both the 9 tails and 3 tails inside of Naruto. With the seal being powered by the Shinigami, it will be powerful enough to seal those two for a lifetime. No, Jiraiya-sensei. It shall not be required of you. I had thought of the possibilities already as soon as the masked man told me about two-tailed beasts attacking Konoha. I am going to do the sealing. Minato said softly, looking at Kushina. Kushina, who was awake, had heard the conversation. She wanted to protest and say it would not be good for her Naruto to lead such a life without his parents around, but her logical part was saying to go with what Minato was saying. Because if not, her baby and her village may not be alive in a few hours. What? Are you even thinking straight, you two? Shouted Tsunade. Sealing two bijus inside of him. Will Naruto be even able to handle such stress on his chakra coils? The potency of 9 tails and the 3 tails chakra combined would be enormous. You can't do that to Naruto. He would not survive the sealing, even if the Hokage Fuin is capable of imprisoning both the bijus. What about you, Minato? You are the Hokage. The village will need you. Tsunade said, trying to put down this messed up idea. Jiraiya went to retort and say something but quieted down upon seeing Minato raise his hand. I understand your concern, Tsunade-sama. But, Naruto, he's mine and Kushina's son. I believe in him. He will be able to handle the pressure. I want him to grow up in this village, to understand what a shinobi is, to understand what a village is. To form a bond with this village. I know he will grow up to be an important figure. Minato said with a small smile on his face. He continued, I am the Yondaime Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato. I am supposed to lead from the front so none of my comrades would suffer. They all depend on me. It is my duty as this village's leader to save her from perishing, no matter the cost. Jiraiya sensei once told me, a shinobi's life is not judged by how he lives his life, but by how he dies. If I die protecting and saving my village today, I will know that, for the future, she will be in capable hands. He said, looking down at Naruto's sleeping form. The participants of the room upon hearing it couldn't help but shed a few tears. The Sandaime was glad he had picked Minato as his successor. The will of fire he exuded was one Hashirama-sensei and Tobirama-sensei talked about. Jiraiya felt extremely proud of his student at this point. Although he was bitter that he wouldn't see his student alive much longer, he couldn't help but feel proud of the decisions Minato has made up to this point. Tsunade wanted to yell at him, but stopped when Kushina pressed her hand with her own and gave her a look saying not to say anything. Kushina herself had tears flowing out her eyes. Minato-kun, give me Naruto. I want to hold him close to me for some time. Kushina said in a soft voice. Tsunade had healed her internal injuries as much as she could, including her chakra network. Although, Tsunade knew, if she were to use her chakra for prolonged time, she would not live to see another day. Minato slowly took Naruto from his sensei and for a while just looked at him. Naruto soon opened his eyes and looked at him with those curious innocent violet eyes and yawned in his arms, making him look even more adorable. He felt his resolve weaken to sacrifice himself for the village and his son, but he knew he had to do it, if he wanted his son and the village to have a future. He then placed Naruto in his wife's hands. Naruto seemed to recognize Kushina and Tsunade, who were looking at him with somber looks. He put out his tiny hands forward and held a few red locks of Kushina's hair, which made the Uzumaki woman smile a bit. Tsunade then went closer to Naruto and kissed him on the forehead and whispered, "Don't worry, Naru-chan. You will have a wonderful life ahead. I will make sure of it." Naruto seemed to gurgle a bit upon hearing that. He yawned again and closed his eyes slowly. Jiraiya, Hiruzen and Minato smiled upon seeing the interaction between the three. After a short silence, Hiruzen cleared his throat to speak. If that is what you wish, Minato. We need to form an immediate plan of action to deal with the two bijus. I don't think we have much time, said Sarutobi. I will go deal with the masked man to free the Kyuubi from under his control. Sarutobi-sama, would you and the other shinobi be able to push the Kyuubi out of the village and hold him down for a while? Hiruzen nodded, listening to Minato. Tsunade-sama and Jiraiya-sensei can handle the Sanbi in that time. After the masked man has been dealt with and I appear before the Kyuubi, Hiruzen-sama will go join up with Jiraiya-sensei and Tsunade-sama. I shall mark all of you with my Hiraishin marker. I will teleport with the Kyuubi once it's freed from the Genjutsu to the outside forests of Konoha, and I shall then summon you three while you are holding down the Sanbi to the Kyuubi's location. My Kage Bunshins will take Kushina and Naruto there in advance. Kushina will be able to hold down the Kyuubi and the Sanbi with her Kongo Fuso chains, once she has recovered enough for that. I shall then use the Shiki Fuin to summon the Shinigami and seal both the 9 tails and the 3 tails using the Hake Fuin seal on Naruto. Minato said, forming the plan in his head as quickly as possible. Everyone seemed to agree with the course of action. They knew Minato was stronger than them and he would be fine on his own against the 9 tails. Minato then looked at Jiraiya and said, Sensei, when the time comes, I want you to help him master the 9 tails and 3 tails chakra. The Kyuubi is said to be the strongest of all bijus and is said to have near unlimited chakra. I believe there will come a time when Naruto will require their assistance. Seeing how the masked man knew about both the Kyuubi and the Sanbi, it is possible to think that he also knows the jinchuriki of other bijus. Please do look after him. Minato said the last part in a downcast voice. Sarutobi could not help but feel sad seeing the current situation. Naruto, not even a day since he came to this world and he was already losing both his parents. Tsunade-sama, I would like to request something of you. Minato said in a small voice. Tsunade looked at him and urged him to continue. Would you look after Naruto as your own son, after tonight? I know it's asking a lot of you. But he will need a mother figure in his life. Kushina will not survive the night. Even with her Uzumaki genes, the way the Kyuubi was extracted from her, I'm sure it has left her chakra network haywire. He will need balance in his life. Would you do it, Tsunade-sama? For a moment, she did not say anything. She looked at Naruto again and saw his sleeping form. She was startled that Minato would ask her to look after Naruto as her own son. She knew growing up without parents would be hard for Naruto, and if by any chance the village comes to know of his jinchuriki status, his life would become a living hell. She then thought about how her life would change if she does adopt Naruto. She couldn't help but feel happy upon thinking of raising Naruto as her own son. She never had a child of her own, and raising Naruto as a senju will keep her legacy alive, even after her time comes. Tsunade looked at Minato with a determined face and said, Yes, don't worry. I shall be the mother he needs. I will look after him like my own flesh and blood. Minato felt a little weight taken off his shoulders upon hearing that. He at least knew his son would grow up being loved by a mother figure. Kushina, too, felt happy and squeezed Tsunade's hand as a thank you gesture with her free hand. Suddenly they all felt a tremendous shockwave and they saw the imposing figure of the Kyuubi standing within the village. Not even a minute later, there was another large burst of chakra and the 3 tails was standing in another part of the village, particularly the crushed hospital. They all shared a knowing look and knew what was to come. They could see the Anbu running around the village, trying to evacuate as many civilians they could. Jiraiya immediately left towards the 3 tails and Tsunade's Kage Bunshin dispelled herself to let the real one know of all the things discussed inside the office. The Sandaime summoned Monkey King Enma. He too left in the direction of the 9 tails. Minato sat down in a lotus position and quickly started amassing Senjutsu chakra. His eyes changed to become bar-like and the outside of his eyes gained orange pigmentation. He got up from his position and took 2 sheets of paper from his drawer. He handed one to Kushina, who looked slightly better from the time he rescued her. Her healing abilities astonished him, even to this day. Kushina, we should probably write a few words for Naruto for when he grows up. I will write instructions for Tsunade-sama to give this letter to Naruto once he's of age, to learn his true heritage. Minato said in a sad voice. Both the Kage-level shinobi wrote few words as quickly as possible for their son, a few lines in Kushina's case, since she still felt very weak. Whatever she was doing right now was solely due to her willpower. And then Minato put it on top of the Hokage's table. Minato quickly made 2 Kage Bunshins and gave them orders to take Kushina and Naruto to the place he intended to do the sealing ritual. Once Kushina and Naruto were out of sight, Minato steeled his resolve. He sensed out the masked man's chakra and disappeared to his location in a yellow flash. Meanwhile, all the clan heads had been informed about the imminent threat of the Kyuubi and the Sanbi in Konoha. Panic, fear and worry were the obvious reactions from everyone. As soon as they received word of the information, they started gathering their respective civilians from the clansmen and began to get to safety. Those who were capable shinobi were preparing to go on the front line to get as many villagers to safety and contribute in staying in Kyuubi until their Hokage would arrive. Hiruzen, Jiraiya and Tsunade had regrouped for a couple of seconds on top of a building which gave them a wide view of the entire village. There were dozens of Anbu along with them on top of the building. Looking around the village, the 3 cage-level shinobi witnessed as the 2 bijus thrashed their tails and destroyed several buildings. Many villagers were caught off guard due to the sudden attack, but they could also see several shinobi getting the civilians to safety. Anbu, we move out and defend Konoha. Hi! Shouted the dozens of Anbu behind Hiruzen before dashing off into the distance to hold off the Kyuubi and the Sanbi until their Hokage could deal with the tailed beasts. Jiraiya, Tsunade, Hiruzen said, gaining their attention, make sure everything goes as to the plan. Times ahead of us will not be easy. But, we must do what we must, for our village to exist in a few hours. This is our duty as ninja of Konohagakure no Sato. Scatter. Jiraiya and Tsunade listened intently to each word spoken by their sensei. They knew how serious the situation in front of them was and they had to give it their all to come out of this alive. Both the Sanins immediately dashed towards the 3 tails. The Kyuubi and the Sanbi were engaged by many ninja from Konoha, moving to distract the beast, preventing damage that would be done. Many shouts could be heard from the different parts of the village where the 2 beasts were rampaging around. Yo, Kyuubi, over here, shouted one, throwing a bunch of shuriken at the beast. No, Kyuubi over here, shouted another, throwing kunai with explosive tags. Of course, none of this did anything except pester the beast, making it more enraged. The Kyuubi roared and flicked its tails to get rid of the annoying flies. In another part of the village near the hospital, the Sanbi was staying put in his place and splashing water from its mouth all around himself to wash away the annoying humans who were throwing different weapons at him. Sanbi, you blind, I'm over here, where do you think you're aiming, you beast? Shouted an Anbu who succeeded in gaining the biju's attention. The Sanbi was about to squash the ninjins with his paw when suddenly a kunai with an explosive tag exploded near his right eye, which he kept close all the time. Irritated by this action, the Sanbi went to open its mouth and started gathering blue and black chakra near its mouth. The shinobi battling the 3 tails knew, whatever the beast was doing was nothing good. Just as the Sanbi was going to launch the bijudama on the shinobi in front of it, a chakra-enhanced punch by Tsunade sent it flying up, which in effect sent the bijudama flying up and exploded away from the village. Everyone stay back, Jiraiya and I will deal with the 3 tails. Some of you go to Sarutobi-sensei and help him deal with the Kyuubi. The rest stay behind and come forward when we ask you to. Tsunade said, still looking up towards the Sanbi who was now descending. Jiraiya, you are up now. Summon your battle toads fast. Shouted Tsunade, who looked at Jiraiya standing atop a nearby building. The toad sage jumped high up in the air, sending a minuscule burst of chakra to his soles and swiftly went through a similar set of hand seals and put an immense amount of chakra this time. Kuchiyos, Yutai Kuzushi no Jutsu. Summoning Jutsu. Food cart destroyer technique. Out of nowhere a giant toad appeared above the 3 tails and landed on top of him, causing a shockwave to spread through the village. The toad took out its tanto and stabbed into one of the tails. The beast screamed and tried to parry off the toad, but to no avail. Stay down, you damn turtle. The toad shouted. Nice job, Bunta. Tsunade, quick. Try knocking the Sanbi out by punching its shell. Jiraiya shouted, standing on top of the toad boss. Tsunade, seeing the beast struggling, jumped up, gave another chakra-enhanced punch to the Sanbi's hard shell at maximum strength. Upon contact of Tsunade's fists with Sanbi's shell, there was another shockwave and the large turtle felt weak on its legs and just fell momentarily knocked out. And with Gamabunta on top of him applying more pressure, the tailed beast wasn't getting up anytime soon. Now, it is believed that the three-tailed shell is among the hardest thing on this planet. So, to be able to crack that hard shell with a single punch was saying something. Jiraiya shivered upon seeing Tsunade's monstrous strength. Good lord, I didn't think she would crack the three-tailed shell. Man, the beating she gave me a few years back when I got caught peeking on her seems like a blessing. That's how you beat a damn overgrown turtle, said Tsunade, proud of her handiwork. Jiraiya just sweat dropped on hearing that. The shinobi who were standing behind and watching the entire scene were shell-shocked on seeing the beast down for a while. They all had heard of Tsunade's monstrous strength but never knew the extent of it. Amazing. Such great strength. So, this is the power possessed by one of the Sanins, said one of the awestruck Anbu. Alright, 4 Anbu come here and form a Shishienjin barrier across us. That would immobilize the three tails from going elsewhere, formulated Jiraiya. The Anbu did as they were told and formed a purplish barrier trapping the three tails, Jiraiya, Gamabunta and Tsunade. Inside the barrier. Phew, it's a relief, this turtle got put down for a while, said Tsunade. Yes. That is. Now, all we have to do is wait for Minato to summon us to the location of the sealing ritual, said Jiraiya tiredly. Few minutes earlier in a forested area outside Konoha. Minato had soon appeared in a forested area outside of Konoha and came face to face with the masked man. Both the men were eyeing each other, but the Yondaime could swear the masked man was smirking upon seeing the fate of the village. This time, Yondaime, we fight on even grounds, said the masked man. I wouldn't call having the Sharingan fighting even, now would I? Are you, Uchiha Madara? Minato said. Maybe. Maybe not. Who I am, is not important or relevant to this world anymore. Yes. It doesn't matter who you are. Madara Uchiha or not, I shall put you down. Why are you targeting the Leaf Village? Minato asked. Who knows? Said the man as he brought a long chain, some of it wrapped around his hand from his black cloak. Maybe it's for war, maybe it's for the peace that I want to bring to this accursed world. Minato did not say anything to that. This man had dangerous ideals. He looked at the man before him who was shrugging as if warming up, then saw the chains drop down from his cloak. He looked ready to fight. Minato took out his tri-pronged kunai from his pocket and prepared to engage him, when suddenly the man laughed. What is so funny? Asked a confused Minato. You are clueless, Yondaime. The Kyuubi cannot be stopped, unless sealed once more. You do not have to worry about the Kyuubi. His fate has already been sealed by me. I intend to stop to you first and then the Nine Tails. Konoha shall not fall while I'm here. So, you plan to make your son the Jinchuriki, huh? You sure that will turn out for the best, Yondaime? The masked man taunted. Minato observed the man carefully, looking for any sign of body language before asking, what are you talking about? I'm talking about your son Yondaime. I know about him. To be raised by the slug Sanin and that idiot of a toad sage. I even know about sealing the Sanbi into him as well. How do you know such information? Asked an enraged Minato. He shouldn't be knowing all that. No one should be, he thought. Ah, don't fret over such pointless information, Yondaime. I have my sources to gather such things, said the masked man casually. I look forward to fighting him in the future. This ends now. I won't let you get the chance, Minato said before throwing his kunai at the masked man. The man simply gave a huff of air and let the kunai phase through him, but not before seeing the Yondaime charge towards him, a blue spiraling ball in his right hand. Rasengan. Of course, this attack too simply passed through him. Too slow, Yondaime, the man said before he pulled on his chains and whirling around to face him, only to find he had disappeared again. He sighed and turned to face the Hokage still waiting in the clearing. Minato still had the Rasengan in his right hand and had two tri-pronged kunai in his left hand. You cannot hope to defeat an Uchiha, said the masked man. We'll see about that, Minato muttered to himself, before throwing the first kunai, and charging at the man. The Sage mode helped Minato go at much faster pace than before. Minato moved as fast as the kunai behind it and planning his attack carefully. The man ran to meet him, and let the kunai phase through him. The masked man then stretched his hand and said, "I win. Hiraishin Ribaru ni, Hiraishin level 2. Minato shouted and disappeared, appearing behind the man and snatching his kunai between his fingers and slamming the Rasengan in his hand into the man. Damn it! He flew to the kunai from earlier. I underestimated him. The masked man thought. How about that? Minato asked. Impressed much? Now, you will definitely will be. Minato deposited his kunai in his kunai pouch and went through hand signs quickly before the man could recover and slammed his hand onto the man's chest and shouted, Kyaki Fuin contract seal. The man cursed himself and felt his control on the Kyuubi and the Sanbi released all at once. He no longer had hold over the two beasts. Then he looked up at the man who ruined all his plans with a fire burning in his eyes. Then he said, I must hand it to you Yondaime Hokage, being able to wound me and sever my ties with the Kyuubi and the Sanbi is not something to laugh at, but no matter. The Kyuubi and the Sanbi will be my playthings again. I will take over the world and there are so many ways to go around it. Then the masked man used his teleportation jutsu and disappeared before Minato's eyes. So, I was right. He is after the jinchuriki. If Naruto is to face him sometime in the future, he is going to need something extremely powerful by his side. Minato thought. He had many thoughts going through his head at a rapid pace. He knew the Kyuubi and the Sanbi were still attacking the village and he had to seal them into his newborn soon. He did not like that one bit, but he had no choice in the matter. Naruto was the only one he could entrust this burden to. Back in Konohagakure, Hiruzen appeared standing atop a nearby building where the Kyuubi was causing havoc. The shinobi battling the Kyuubi sighed in relief upon seeing the Sandaime joining the battle. Kuchiyos, Monkey King Enma, summoning, Monkey King Enma, shouted Sarutobi after going through the hand signs for the summoning jutsu. There was a puff of smoke that appeared beside Hiruzen, who stood in full battle armor. It was a monkey that stood slightly taller than the aged Hokage. The monkey looked around before noticing the fox, and said, So, the Kyuubi has been unleashed now Hiruzen. Minato didn't do a very good job. He said. There were circumstances that were unpreventable. Hiruzen said. I can see that. Henge. Kongonyoi. Transformation. Adamantine staff. Enma then turned from his monkey form into a large adamantine staff that Hiruzen then gripped and allowed to extend into the Kyuubi, smacking him in his head. The Kyuubi became enraged and flicked its tail, smacking several shinobi away from him. Hiruzen saw his chance and extended his staff again, pushing Kyuubi through the wall and outside the village. The Kyuubi, enraged by this, started charging up a Bijudama. Minato appeared at the battle site soon after dealing with the masked man, standing on top of his head at the Hokage monument. He looked at the fierce battle going on in the distance and noticed the Kyuubi getting more agitated and began charging up a Bijudama. Minato cursed himself silently and started to go through hand signs. Then the Kyuubi turned straight towards Minato and launched in straight at him. Minato finished the hand signs and brought out his signature tri-pronged kunai and held it out in front of him and began the space-time ninjutsu. Out came what looked like a fuinjutsu seal but had a gaping hole in the middle of it and the Bijudama went straight inside of it. The giant purple chakra ball disappeared inside and seconds later, a huge explosion could be heard a long distance away from the village. He smirked to himself at his quick thinking. Sarutobi looked at the Bijudama, as it was launched towards the Hokage monument and panicked slightly, when he saw Minato on top of it. He smiled and saw him use a space-time ninjutsu to make the Bijudama disappear. He then turned serious again at the looming threat of the Kyuubi. He gripped Enma who was still in his hands and charged at the nine-tailed fox. Minato then ran as quick as possible over the rooftops and jumped high above the Kyuubi and went through hand signs again. He was still in his sage mode, hence his chakra reserves were getting replenished quickly and so were his earlier injuries. Minato then shouted, Kuchiyos, Yutai Kuzushi no Jutsu, and a giant green toad with two tanto strapped to his back and dressed in a battle toad attire came out of nowhere and dropped on the giant fox. On top of the toad stood Minato, looking down at the Kyuubi who was charging yet another Bijudama. He cursed again and started gathering chakra, preparing to Hiraishin himself and the fox away. Hiruzen and the shinobi who were battling the Kyuubi were getting exhausted. They were firing jutsu after jutsu and yet there was not even a single scratch on the giant beast. So, upon seeing their Yondaime Hokage and the fox being put down by the giant toad, they cheered. It's the Yondaime. A ninja cheered around him. Hiruzen smiled upon seeing him, wondering what he would do now. So, when he saw both the fox and his successor disappear, he was astonished. Suddenly Hiruzen felt a tap from behind his shoulders and turned to look around. Sandaime-sama, I'm just a Kage Bunshin, you should go to Jiraiya-sensei and Tsunade-sama now. I shall summon you to the sealing ritual place in a few minutes. All three of you, hold on to one tail of the Sanbi each, said Minato's Kage Bunshin. Sandaime sighed upon realizing that everything was going to plan up till now and then nodded to the Kage Bunshin and asked it to dispel himself. All of the shinobi present here, get as many injured you can out of here and set up medical camps so we can get them treated after everything has been dealt with. Hiruzen said in a loud authoritative voice. Hi Sandaime-sama, voiced the shinobi and got to doing their work. Sarutobi immediately left towards Jiraiya and Tsunade's location hoping to get there as soon as possible. Jiraiya was not having a fun time. Sitting on top of Gamabunta and constantly channeling chakra through himself and the boss toad to be ready at any given moment for the Sanbi to make a move. Tsunade too was slightly exhausted. The amount of chakra she had put while punching the Sanbi on its shell was enormous. The Anbu who were sustaining the barrier around the Sanins and the tailed beast were feeling the strain too and were worried about the situation with the 9 tails. Hiruzen suddenly landed in front of them. Anbu dropped the barrier immediately. Said the Sarutobi. Sensei, what's going on? Who's dealing with the Kyuubi now? Is Minato done with the masked man? Asked Jiraiya rapidly. The Kyuubi has been teleported by Minato to the sealing ritual place. He asked me to come here and join you. Get down here fast. We must each hold onto a tail of the Sanbi and channel chakra through the Hiraishin seal placed on us. Sarutobi said quickly. So, then he freed the 2 bijus from the masked man's control. That Minato is too good for his age, said Tsunade, smirking, while going towards one of the tails. Jiraiya too smiled upon hearing it. His apprentice wasn't a SS-class shinobi for nothing, he mused. Soon, the 3 Kage-level shinobi caught one of tails of the beast and channeled chakra through the Hiraishin seal placed on them. The Anbu standing around them were wondering what each of them was doing when suddenly they saw Hiruzen, Jiraiya, Tsunade and the 3 tails disappearing out of their sights. Minato teleported the Kyuubi to the sealing ritual place and immediately fell on his knees panting. He was running dangerously low on chakra now and his sage mode had long since faded. He saw Kushina to the side along with Naruto who was resting on her lap sleeping peacefully. He had a few tears coming from his eyes upon seeing his child. He never wanted all of this to happen to his child. He steeled his resolve then and approached them. Kushi-chan, it's time. Hold down the Kyuubi with your chakra chains. Then I will summon Jiraiya-sensei, Tsunade-sama and Hiruzen-sama along with the Sanbi here, and we can proceed with the sealing. Minato said somberly. No, I change my mind. We can't do this to our baby child. Please understand Minato. He's my son, how can we do this? Kushina shouted as her motherly instincts kicked in. It's not any easier for me to do this, Kushina. Try looking at it from my point of view. I cannot do it to another child and ask another parent to make this sacrifice. I am the Hokage of this village and I must do what is necessary to look after it. Plus, Naruto. I trust in him. He will grow up to be a fine and powerful shinobi one day. I can feel it. And to fight the masked man, he will need the Biju's help. The masked man was no joke. He was a powerful opponent. I couldn't kill him. He escaped in time, Minato said, looking down. Minato then took Naruto from her arms and Kushina, who was on her knees still feeling extremely weak. She summoned her will to subdue the nine tails through her chakra chains. Minato was panting hard with Naruto in his arms. The Kyuubi was trying all it could to break free of the restraints. Suddenly he felt a pull on the Hiraishin marker he placed on his sensei, Tsunade-sama and Hiruzen. Minato then quickly amassed large amount of chakra and summoned those three along with the three tails, who seemed to be knocked out for the moment. Good. Sanbi won't try to lash out and increase Kushina's problem of holding down two bijus. She is already struggling with the Kyuubi, thought Minato. Hiruzen, Jiraiya ran to Minato's side and Tsunade immediately ran to Kushina's. Tsunade put both her hands on Kushina's shoulder and started transferring some of her chakra to her. Kushina felt slightly rejuvenated upon receiving chakra and her hold on the nine tails increased, which infuriated the giant fox to no end. So, Isobu is also here. What is the Yondaime planning to do with us now? Thought the enraged Kyuubi. Minato, are you sure you're up for this? I can still do it in your place, if you want. Jiraiya said sadly, looking at his protege. Yes, sensei. I'm alright. I must do it. It's my job as the Hokage and it is a father's duty to ensure their child's future. Minato said, breathing a bit heavily now. Sarutobi-sama, you must take the mantle of the Hokage back, I suppose, for the time being. There's no one else better for the job now. I doubt Jiraiya-sensei or Tsunade-sama would want it right now. Minato said, chuckling a bit at the end. Jiraiya just scoffed and looked away, not being able to look at Minato now. Hiruzen, although reluctantly and sadly, nodded his head. Stay back now. Jiraiya-sensei, Tsunade-sama, Sarutobi-sama, I suppose it's time for the sealing now. I am so sorry, kid. Whispered Jiraiya more to himself than Minato. Hiruzen along with Jiraiya and Tsunade walked a distance back from where Minato, Kushina and Naruto were, along with the two bijus. Minato went through few hand seals and said, Kuchio's number jutsu, and a small tall toad appeared beside Minato. This toad was Garotora, whose job was to store scrolls inside himself. Minato asked the toad to stand a bit to the side and explained him what he was going to do and his part in it. Although the toad was surprised upon hearing this predicament, he nodded his head and stepped aside. Minato then took out three scrolls and laid one of them on the ground and formed the tiger seal. Fuin Kai. Seal release, Minato shouted. The scroll glowed, then suddenly an altar appeared and Fuinjutsu marks ran across the ground until they reached the Kyuubi and the Sanbi, who were entangled in them shortly. The Sanbi by this time had woken up but could not do anything. The Kyuubi roared at him and Minato just smirked and began to do what he set out to. He took the second scroll and scribbled within it quickly, then rolled it up and set it to the side. He then flew through several hand signs and shouted, Shiki Fuin, dead demon consuming seal. There was an ominous chakra that surrounded Minato and behind him appeared the Shinigami. Minato looked at his son and placed him on the altar and shed some more tears. Kushina too looked at her son and was openly crying by now. She felt horrible to be doing this to her own son. In the beginning, Minato had thought about taking the Kyuubi with him and only sealing the three tails in Naruto, but then crossed that out of his mind, thinking that his son was the perfect vessel. With the genes of the Uzumaki and Namikaze family, his son is bound to have incredible chakra reserves and potency, and will be able to control the Kyuubi and the Sanbi in time. The question was, could he draw on the Shinigami enough to be able to seal both the bijus in his son safely and completely? He mulled over it for a while and decided with a yes. Minato then looked at both the Kyuubi and the Sanbi and saw both them glaring at him. Minato saw that Kushina's hold on the Kyuubi was weakening slightly as it was beginning to get free. That Yondaime is planning to seal Isobu and me into that gaki. No, this can't be happening, Kyuubi thought with anger boiling inside of him. Ah man, not again. Half of my strength was gone breaking free of that seal and now I'm going to be sealed again along with Kurama. Isobu thought, cursing his bad luck. The Kyuubi suddenly raised one of its claws intending to kill Naruto, but just as it was about to reach him, Minato and Kushina jumped in front him, saving Naruto from the danger. One of Kyuubi's claw was now sticking out Kushina and Minato, who was standing behind her. There was blood dripping from the claw and some of it fell on Naruto's stomach, who was now awake. As if sensing his parents' pain, he started crying. Minato looked at Kushina, who was staring at Naruto sadly. He was glad that he still had some strength left to complete the ritual, and especially that Naruto was safe from harm. Jiraiya, Tsunade and Hiruzen were now standing on top on Gamabunta, who Jiraiya had summoned again a short while ago. All of them were about to run in, seeing the Kyuubi trying to finish off Naruto before he could be sealed again. They did not know whether to be glad that Naruto was safe or cry about the fact that both Minato and Kushina were just impaled by one of Kyuubi's claw. Tsunade was openly weeping now, looking at the scene in front of her. Kushi-chan, I don't have much time left. We should probably say our last words to our Naruto before that. I want to seal some of our chakra into Naruto before we die. It will a while before we see him again. Minato said, breathing heavily with blood coming out of his mouth. Kushina just kept staring at Naruto lovingly and said, "Thank you, Minato-kun, thank you for everything you have done for me." "Oh, did I wake you up, little Naru-chan?" Kushina said in a weak motherly tone. Naruto soon yawned again and slowly closed his eyes, hearing his mother's voice. "Kushina," Minato said, "don't say such things, Kushi-chan. You made me Yondaime Hokage. Made me your husband, and now, gave birth to our beautiful child, Naruto. I'm happy, Minato-kun. Don't look sad. I'm happy you loved me. Besides, today is our child's birthday. Above all, when I think about our future together as a family, if I lived, I can only see a life full of happiness." Kushina started saying slowly. Minato started shedding more tears upon hearing his wife speak. "If there is only one thing that I regret, it's that I won't be able to see Naruto grow up," Kushina finished sadly, looking at her son's sleeping form on the altar. "Thank you, Kushina," Minato said. Minato gave the command to the Shinigami to take out the chakra and the soul of the 9 tails and the 3 tails and to seal it inside Naruto. The ominous being put his hand through Minato's soul and stretched his hand towards the Kyuubi and the Sanbi and grabbed their soul and chakra, dragged it inside the newborn baby, and instantly a spiral-looking seal appeared on Naruto's stomach. "It's time to finish the Hake Fuin seal, Kushi-chan," Minato said slowly. "Naruto, don't be picky with your food. Eat lots so you can grow big and strong. Take baths every day and stay warm. And don't stay up late at night. You'll need your sleep. Make friends, you don't need a lot of them, just a few are okay, whom you can trust. I'm not one to talk, but do your best in school and ninjutsu. Everyone has their own strength and weakness, so, don't feel down if you are not good at something. Respect your teachers and seniors at the academy, oh, and don't forget the 3 shinobi vices, be especially careful when lending and borrowing money. Make sure to save money you're earning from every mission. Don't drink any alcohol until you are of age. Drinking too much is bad for your health, so drink moderately, okay? It's okay to be interested in women. But don't get hooked on bad women. Find someone just like Ka-san, okay? Speaking of vices, be wary of Jiraiya-sensei. Kushina said, breathing heavily. Minato just smiled upon hearing the last part, and Jiraiya, although feeling down upon seeing the scene in front of him, scoffed hearing that. Hiruzen and Tsunade just smiled a little, listening to Kushina talk to baby Naruto. "Naruto, you will face a lot of pain and suffering from now in your life. Believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams. And believe that your dreams will come true. There's many